My parents said I was the black sheep who would never amount to anything, so I bought their house at the foreclosure auction. Dad always told people I was broken. Cassius will be in prison by 25. He'd announce at dinner parties while I sat right there. Mom would laugh, adding fuel. He's got criminal written all over him. My crime? Defending my younger brother Atticus when Dad's belt came out after too many whiskey nights. They kicked me out at 17 after I called the police on Dad for hitting Mom. "You ungrateful piece of trash," he screamed, throwing my clothes into the yard. "Don't ever come back here." Mom stood behind him, her lips still bleeding, and said nothing. I lived in my car for 3 months, showering at the gym, working double shifts at a warehouse. By 19, I had my own apartment. By 22, my first rental property. While they played perfect family for the neighbors, I was building an empire they couldn't see. For 8 years, I didn't contact them. Then my sister Persephone called, crying. Dad lost everything gambling. Mom's been hiding it, but they're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The house I'd grown up fearing was about to be sold to the highest bidder. The foreclosure auction was held on their front lawn. Fitting, really. Dad always cared more about appearances than anything else. I arrived in my Mercedes wearing a suit that cost more than their monthly mortgage payment. They stood on the porch looking broken. Dad's shoulders slumped for the first time in my life. I'd researched the property value, the neighborhood comps, everything. I knew exactly what to bid. The auctioneer started at $150,000. The house was worth $400,000 in good condition, but foreclosures go cheap. A few investors tossed out bids. Around $180,000, it was down to me and one other guy. $190,000, I called out. Dad's head snapped up. He recognized my voice but couldn't see me through the crowd. $195,000 from the gentleman in the blue shirt, the auctioneer announced, pointing to my competitor. $210,000, I said, stepping forward where they could see me. Mom gasped. Dad's face went white, then purple with rage. $210,000 going once, going twice, sold. I walked up to complete the paperwork while my parents watched in stunned silence. The other bidders dispersed, chatting about the next property. It was just us now. "You've got to be kidding me," Dad finally sputtered. 30 days to vacate, I said, not looking up from the documents. That night, they appeared at my office. The same people who told me I'd never amount to anything were begging in my marble lobby. "We can pay you rent," Mom pleaded. "We'll work something out." "With what money?" I asked. "Dad gambled away your retirement." His fists clenched. "You arrogant little..." "Careful. I own your house now, and I've been documenting your gambling debts for months." Their faces went pale. I pulled out a thick folder. "Did you really think I'd buy this place without doing research? I know about the second mortgage, the credit card cash advances, the loan sharks." "How could you know all that?" Mom whispered. I smiled coldly. "Because one of those loan sharks works for me now. And he's been very helpful in explaining exactly how much trouble you're both in." Dad grabbed Mom's arm. "We're leaving." "Actually," I called out as they reached the door, "you might want to hear what else I discovered. About the night you kicked me out. About what really happened to Atticus after I left." They stopped frozen. Dad's hand trembled on the door handle. "That's right. I know the truth about my little brother's accident, and the police would be very interested in hearing it." Mom turned around slowly, her face the color of ash. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" I opened another folder, this one thicker than the first. Medical records are public information when you know where to look, especially when you have connections at the hospital. Dad's jaw worked silently. For the first time in my life, I watched him struggle for words. "Atticus broke his arm in 3 places," I continued, my voice steady. "Compound fractures. The emergency room doctor noted the injuries were inconsistent with a fall downstairs, which was your story. Funny how you never mentioned his arm was broken while he was trying to shield his face." "He fell," Dad said weakly. "He was running, and he was running from you." I pulled out a photograph. "This is from the security camera across the street. Mrs. Kowalski had one installed after her house was broken into. She kept the footage all these years waiting for someone to ask the right questions." The photo showed our front window, clearly visible from across the street. Even in black and white, you could see a small figure pressed against the glass, then suddenly disappearing from view. The timestamp shows 11:47 p.m. 3 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Atticus told the paramedics he fell down the stairs at almost midnight. "But Children's Services never followed up because you were so convincing. Such a tragic accident." Mom sank into one of my lobby chairs. "Please don't do this to us." "Do what? Tell the truth? Something you never bothered with." I walked closer, letting them see every page in the folder. Hospital reports, witness statements, photographs, even receipts from the hardware store where Dad had bought a new section of stair railing the next morning. "You want to know what convinced me to buy your house? It wasn't revenge, it was this." I pulled out a letter, handwritten on school notebook paper. "Atticus sent this to my last known address 6 months ago. Took me 3 years to track down where I'd moved." Dad's eyes widened. He recognized the handwriting. "Should I read it out loud, or would you prefer to hear it in private?" "Don't," Mom with. "Dear Cassius," I began it. "I hope you're okay wherever you are. I know Dad said you'd probably be in jail by now, but I don't think that's true. You were the only one who ever protected me." Mom started crying silently. Dad remained frozen. "I know you left because of me. Because you called the police that night when Dad hit Mom, and I was too scared to tell them what really happened. I wanted to tell them Dad pushed me down the stairs because I tried to stop him from hitting you with the belt. But I was only 9, and I was scared they'd take me away from Mom." The lobby was completely quiet except for the sound of Mom's muffled sobs. "I'm 18 now, and I understand why you had to go. I just wanted you to know I don't blame you for leaving. I blame myself for not being brave like you. I hope someday I can find you and tell you I'm sorry." I folded the letter carefully. He included his phone number. "We've been talking for 4 months. Dad finally found his voice. "You had no right to what? To contact my own brother? To help him pay for college since you spent his fund at the casino? College? Mom looked up sharply. Full scholarship to engineering school? Turns out he's brilliant. Who would have guessed? He's also been in therapy for 3 years, dealing with the PTSD from living in your house. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a recent photo. This is Atticus now. The picture showed a tall, confident young man in a cap and gown, holding a diploma. He had my same dark hair and Mom's green eyes, but there was something in his expression I'd never seen in our family photos. Genuine happiness. He graduated valedictorian from his high school last month, full ride to MIT. He wanted to be here today, but I told him this was something I needed to handle alone. Dad slumped against the wall. We never meant for any of this to happen. You meant every bit of it. The only thing you didn't mean was getting caught. I gathered the folders and looked at them both. 8 years ago, they'd seemed so powerful, so untouchable. Now they looked like what they'd always been, broken people who broke everyone around them. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You have 28 days left to find somewhere else to live. I'm renovating the house and selling it. Cassius, please. Mom stood up shakily. We're your parents. No, parents protect their children. You protected yourselves. Where are we supposed to go? Dad asked. I don't care. You figured out how to spend $250,000 at poker tables and slot machines. Figure out how to find an apartment. I started walking toward the elevator, then turned back. One more thing. If either of you contacts Atticus again, if you show up at his school, if you try to manipulate him the way you manipulated everyone else, I will release every piece of information I have to the police, the press, and anyone else who will listen. Your little secret about what really happened that night will become front-page news. The elevator doors opened. As I stepped inside, I heard Mom call my name. What? Do you really hate us this much? I thought about it for a moment. 8 years ago, the answer would have been yes. But standing there, looking at these two pathetic people who'd spent decades convincing themselves they were victims of circumstances, I realized hate required too much energy. No, I said finally. I just don't care about you anymore. And that's worse. The doors closed. 3 weeks later, I stood in the empty house for the first time since I was 17. They'd left it in terrible condition. Holes in the walls, stained carpets, broken fixtures. It would cost more to renovate than I'd planned, but money wasn't the point. I walked through each room slowly. The living room where Dad used to hold court, pontificating about success while drinking himself into a rage. The kitchen where Mom would pretend not to see the bruises. The hallway where I'd stood between Dad and Atticus so many times. The stairs looked different than I remembered. Narrower. The railing Dad had replaced was painted to match, but you could still see where the old wood met the new if you knew what to look for. I climbed to the second floor. My old room was at the end of the hall, next to Atticus's. Someone, probably Mom, had turned mine into storage. Boxes of old clothes, broken furniture, photo albums. I opened one of the albums randomly. Family Christmas, maybe 8 years ago. Dad in his favorite chair, Mom on the couch, Persephone holding a gift, Atticus sitting on the floor. I was in the background, arms crossed, looking like I'd rather be anywhere else. Even then, you could see it in my face. I was already planning my escape. Atticus's room had been converted into Dad's home office. A cheap desk, old computer, stacks of gambling magazines, and get-rich-quick schemes. I found a shoebox full of collection agency letters and foreclosure notices. They'd been in trouble for over 2 years before Persephone called me. I was closing the box when I found something that made me stop breathing. A small notebook, hidden under the collection letters. Atticus's handwriting, much younger than the letter he'd sent me. The first entry was dated 3 months after I left. Cassius has been gone for 92 days. I count every morning when I wake up. Dad says he's probably dead by now, but I don't believe him. Cassius was too smart to die. He was too smart to stay here. I sat on Dad's desk chair and kept reading. I had another nightmare about the stairs. In the dream, Cassius comes back and catches Dad pushing me. But then I wake up and remember Cassius isn't coming back because I was too scared to tell the truth. The doctor asked if someone hurt me and I just cried and said I fell. I could have stopped everything, but I was a baby. The entries continued for 3 years. My little brother had been carrying this guilt all this time, thinking my leaving was his fault, thinking he could have prevented it by being braver. There were entries about school, about kids making fun of him for wearing long sleeves in summer to hide bruises, about Mom forgetting to pick him up from soccer practice because she was hiding at her sister's house after Dad had another bad night, about lying to teachers about why he had black eyes. But there were also entries about me, about how he practiced conversations we'd have if I came back, about how he saved money from his allowance to buy me Christmas presents every year, keeping them in a box under his bed in case I showed up. The last entry was dated 2 years ago. I'm 16 now. I found Cassius online, he owns a company, and he looks happy. I want to write to him, but I don't know what to say. How do you apologize for ruining someone's life? I closed the notebook and sat in that awful room for a long time. All these years, I'd thought I was protecting myself by cutting contact. I'd thought I was building a life they couldn't touch. But my little brother had been suffering alone, believing he was responsible for everything that went wrong. I pulled out my phone and called him. Cassius? His voice was deeper now, but still careful. Still the voice of someone who'd learned not to trust good things. I'm at the house. I found your journal. Silence for a long moment. Then, you weren't supposed to see that. I'm glad I did. We need to talk. I'm in class. Can I call you later? This can't wait. Atticus, what happened to you was not your fault. My leaving was not your fault. None of it was your fault. I heard him take a shaky breath. I was 9, he said quietly. You were 9. You were a child. Children don't ruin their families by being too scared to testify against their abusive parents. Adults ruin families by abusing children. But if I had told the truth, nothing would have changed. They would have found a way to explain it away, just like they explained away everything else. The only difference is you would have been hurt worse for speaking up. He was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Atticus? I saved your Christmas presents. I still have all of them. My throat tightened. What? Every year since you left, I bought you something for Christmas and kept it in a box. I know it's stupid, but I thought maybe someday... It's not stupid. It's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever told me. I could hear him crying now, trying to muffle it. I'm driving to Boston tonight, I said. I want to see you. You don't have to. I want to. I should have done this years ago. Cassius? Yeah? Are you really okay? Dad always said you'd end up in jail or dead. I looked around at Dad's pathetic office, at the evidence of his gambling addiction and Mom's enabling, at the notebook where my little brother had tortured himself with guilt for things that were never his responsibility. I'm better than okay, and so are you. We survived them. The drive to MIT took 4 hours. I used the time to think about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to handle this reunion. Atticus and I had talked on the phone dozens of times over the past few months, but seeing each other in person would be different. I found him waiting outside his dorm building, exactly where he said he'd be. He was taller than I'd expected, probably 6'2" now, but he still had that careful posture I remembered, like he was always ready to duck or run. When he saw me get out of the car, his whole face changed. For a second, he looked exactly like the 9-year-old I'd left behind. Hi, he said. Hi yourself. We stood there for a moment, both uncertain. Then he stepped forward and hugged me, and I realized I'd been holding my breath for 8 years. You got big, I said when we separated. He laughed. You got expensive. I looked down at my suit. Sorry, I came straight from the office. I don't care what you're wearing. I'm just glad you're real. Sometimes I thought I might have imagined having a brother. We walked to a nearby coffee shop. Atticus ordered something with way too much caffeine, and I got black coffee. He kept looking at me like I might disappear. Tell me about MIT, I said. His face lit up. It's incredible. I'm studying mechanical engineering with a focus on prosthetics design. I want to build things that help people. Like what? Artificial limbs that respond to neural impulses. Exoskeletons for people with spinal injuries. I know it sounds crazy, but it sounds amazing. He smiled shyly. I got the idea from watching you. The way you always try to fix things that were broken. I never fixed anything important. You tried to fix our family. That's how I knew you were good. I set down my coffee. Atticus, I need you to understand something. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because I had to. But I should have found a way to take you with me. How? You were 17 and living in your car. I should have tried harder. I should have fought for you. He leaned forward. You did fight for me, every single day until you left. I remember every time you stepped between me and Dad. Every time you took a beating that was meant for me. You saved me more times than I can count. Not the last time. The last time, you were protecting Mom. You called the police because Dad was going to seriously hurt her. I understand that now. I told him about the house, about the foreclosure, about confronting our parents. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious. So, they're really homeless now? He asked finally. They have a few days left to figure something out. Good. The sharpness in his voice surprised me. My little brother had always been gentle, even when he had every reason to be angry. They destroyed themselves, he continued. I used to think I wanted them to love me. Now I just want them to leave me alone. When did you stop trying to win their approval? When I realized you were never coming back for them. You were the strongest person I knew, and if you gave up on them, they must be hopeless. We talked for 3 hours. He showed me pictures of his projects, told me about his girlfriend Rachel, described his plans after graduation. He was brilliant and kind and everything our parents had tried to beat out of us both. I have something for you, he said as we walked back to his dorm. The Christmas presents? He blushed. I know it's weird. I want to see them. His room was small but organized. Engineering textbooks, a few photos, a single bed with a pillow that looked like it had been through a war. I still sleep with this, he said, noticing my expression. It was yours. Mom was going to throw out all your stuff after you left, but I hid some things. He pulled a large box from under his bed and set it on his desk. Inside were wrapped presents, each one labeled with a year. 2016 through 2023. 8 Christmases worth of gifts he'd bought for a brother who wasn't there. Can I? I gestured to the oldest one. He nodded. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a picture frame with a photo of us from when he was 7 and I was 14. We were building a snowman in the backyard, both of us laughing at something. I looked so young, but even then I had my arm around him protectively. You always did that, he said quietly. Put yourself between me and everything scary. I opened the next gift. A book about starting your own business. Then a set of cufflinks. A watch. Each present showed how much he'd thought about who I might become, what I might need. The most recent gift was the heaviest. I unwrapped it to find a small sculpture. A tree with strong roots and branches reaching upward. There was a tiny plaque at the base. For Cassius, who taught me it's possible to grow strong in bad soil. I made it in my metalworking class, he said. I know it's not very good. It's perfect. I set it down carefully and looked at him. This incredible young man who'd survived everything our parents had thrown at him and still found ways to hope, to love, to create beautiful things. I have something for you too, I said. I pulled out an envelope. Inside were the keys to a brand new apartment near his campus, already paid for through graduation, and the deed to a small property I'd bought in his name, his first step toward financial independence. Cassius, I can't, you can, and you will. I spent 8 years building wealth. What's the point if I can't share it with the person who matters most? He stared at the papers. Why are you doing this? Because you're my brother. Because I love you. Because I should have been doing it all along. That night, I stayed in Boston. We ordered pizza and stayed up late talking about everything. His classes, my business, memories of the few good times we'd shared as children. It was the first night in 8 years that I slept without wondering if I'd made the right choice leaving home. The next morning, I called my assistant and cleared my schedule. Atticus didn't have classes on Friday, so I asked if he wanted to drive back to the house with me. I want to see it one more time before we tear it down, I explained. We? You're part of this decision. It's your history too. The house looked even worse in daylight. The lawn was overgrown, shutters hung crooked, paint peeled from the siding. It looked like what it was, a place where people had given up. Inside, we walked through the rooms together. Atticus stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked up. I used to have nightmares about falling, he said, but I never fell. He pushed me because I was trying to stop him from going after you with that belt. I know. The stupid thing is, I kept hoping things would get better after you left. Like maybe without you there to blame, they'd finally see what they were doing to themselves. People like that don't see. They just find new people to blame. We went upstairs to our old rooms. Atticus stood in the doorway of what had been his bedroom, now filled with Dad's gambling paraphernalia. He turned my room into a casino, Atticus said. That's fitting. In my old room, we found more boxes of junk, but at the bottom of one, wrapped in an old towel, Atticus discovered something that made us both stop. It was a photo album neither of us had seen before. Not the family pictures Mom usually displayed, but candid shots someone had taken without us knowing. Pictures of Atticus and me building things in the garage, reading together on the couch, teaching him to ride his bike in the alley behind the house. In every single photo, we were together. And in every photo, we looked happy. Mom must have hidden this, Atticus said, turning the pages slowly. She knew we were close. She knew, and she let them split us up anyway. The last photo in the album showed us asleep on the living room floor, surrounded by the pieces of a model airplane we'd been building. I had my arm around him, even in sleep still protecting my little brother. I want to burn this place down, Atticus said quietly. We can't, but we can tear it down legally. What? I looked at him seriously. I bought this place to demolish it. I'm going to build something better here, something that doesn't carry all this poison. Like what? I was thinking a community center, after-school programs for kids whose parents work late, counseling services, maybe a small playground. Atticus stared at me. You're going to turn our childhood home into a place that helps children? If that's okay with you. He was quiet for a long moment, looking around the room that had held so much fear. I love it, he said finally. I want to help design it. Deal. We spent the rest of the day planning. Atticus had ideas about making the space accessible for children with disabilities, about creating quiet areas for kids who needed to escape chaos at home. His engineering background gave him insights I never would have had. By evening, we had sketches and lists and a rough timeline. We'd work with the city to get the permits, hire a crew to demolish safely, and start construction in the spring. There's one more thing I want to do before we leave, I said. I led him to the backyard, to the oak tree where we'd built a treehouse when he was 10. The treehouse was long gone, but the tree was still strong. I pulled out a small spade I'd brought from the car and started digging near the base of the tree. What are you doing? I buried something here the night before I left. I was so angry I thought I might do something stupid, so I got rid of it. I found the metal box about 2 feet down. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a notebook filled with angry letters I'd written to our parents but never sent. Page after page of rage and hurt and blame. I used to read these and feel like I was drowning, I said, flipping through them, like their poison was still in my blood. I handed the notebook to Atticus. He read a few pages, his expression growing sad. You were so angry. I was, but anger was just hurt wearing a disguise. I took the notebook back and looked at my 17-year-old handwriting. All that pain, all that fury at people who couldn't love us the way we needed. It seemed like someone else's life. What do you want to do with it? Atticus asked. I thought for a moment, then walked to the old fire pit Dad had built for backyard parties he never hosted. I crumpled up the first page and lit it with matches from my pocket. I don't need to carry this anymore. Atticus helped me feed the pages to the fire, one by one. 8 years of stored anger going up in smoke. When the last page was ash, we stood together watching the flames die down. How do you feel? He asked. Lighter. We drove back to Boston that night. I dropped Atticus off at his dorm with promises to call soon, to visit again, to include him in every decision about the community center. As I drove home, I thought about my parents. By now they would have found somewhere to live, some other story to tell themselves about why their lives had fallen apart. They'd probably blame me for years to come. I used to think that would bother me. Now I realized I truly didn't care. 6 months later, the demolition was complete. The house that had held so much pain was gone, reduced to a clean lot ready for something better. Atticus came home for winter break, and we broke ground together on the community center. We invited Persephone to the groundbreaking ceremony. She'd stayed in touch with both of us over the years, walking a careful line between loyalty to our parents and love for her brothers. When she saw the plans for the center, she cried. This is what healing looks like, she said. The construction took 8 months. Atticus spent his summer break working with the contractors, applying his engineering knowledge to make sure everything was built to last. We included features he'd designed, sensory-friendly spaces, adaptive equipment, quiet rooms for children who needed to decompress. The community center opened on a Saturday morning in September. We'd planned a small ribbon-cutting ceremony, but somehow word had spread. Hundreds of people showed up. Neighbors, families, city officials, reporters. I was standing with Atticus near the entrance when I saw them across the street. Mom and Dad, older and frailer than I remembered, watching from a distance. They looked like people who'd come to see something they'd lost forever. They came, Atticus said quietly. Yeah, do you want to talk to them? I watched them for a moment. Dad leaning on a walking cane, Mom clutching his arm. They looked like what they'd become, 2 elderly people who'd spent their lives making bad choices. No, I said. This isn't for them. The mayor gave a speech about community healing and second chances. Atticus cut the ribbon while cameras flashed. Children ran through the doors to explore their new safe space. I looked across the street one more time. Mom and Dad were gone. That evening, after all the visitors had left, Atticus and I walked through the quiet building together. In the main room, where our living room used to be, children had already left drawings on the tables. Pictures of families, pets, houses with smoke coming from chimneys. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Atticus asked. "Look at this place. Look at how happy those kids were today." Yeah, we did the right thing. We stopped in front of a memorial wall we'd installed near the entrance. It held photos and names of local children who died from abuse or neglect, along with information about warning signs and resources for help. At the top, in simple letters, was our dedication. "For every child who needs someone to believe them." "I keep thinking about that night," Atticus said. "The night you left. I wish I'd been brave enough to leave with you. You were 9. You weren't supposed to be that brave. But if you had, you might not have become the person you are now. You might not have developed the compassion to design safe spaces for other kids. Everything you went through, as awful as it was, led you to this moment." He nodded slowly. "I never thought about it that way. Besides, you did leave eventually. You left and you survived, and you built something beautiful out of all that ugliness. That takes a different kind of courage." We locked up the building and stood outside looking at it. Where our house of horrors used to stand, there was now a place of hope. "Thank you," Atticus said. "For what?" "For coming back for me. For showing me it was possible to escape. You escaped on your own. I just caught up to you." 3 years later, the community center had helped over 500 families. Atticus finished his engineering degree and took a job with a company that designed assistive technology. He was engaged to Rachel, the girlfriend I'd met at MIT, and they were planning a small wedding. I was sitting in my office on a Thursday morning when my assistant knocked on my door. "There's a woman here to see you. She says she's your mother." Mom looked older than her 62 years. Her hair was completely gray, her clothes worn but clean. She sat across from my desk with her hands folded, looking like someone who'd come to confess. "I saw the article about the community center in the newspaper," she said. "About you and Atticus. And I wanted to tell you I was proud. Too little, too late." She nodded. "I know, but I needed to say it anyway." We sat in silence for a moment. "How's Dad?" I asked, not because I cared, but because it seemed like the polite thing to do. "He died last month. Heart attack." I felt nothing. No grief, no relief, no satisfaction. Nothing. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Are you?" I considered the question honestly. "No, but I'm sorry you're alone. I deserve to be alone. Probably." She pulled out a small wrapped package and set it on my desk. "I found this in his things. It's addressed to you. I didn't touch it." "What is it?" "I don't know. He sealed it years ago. Told me to give it to you if anything ever happened to him." "Why would I want anything from him?" "You don't have to take it. I thought you should have the choice." After she left, I stared at the package for an hour before opening it. Inside was a letter and a small wooden box. The letter was in Dad's handwriting, shaky and uncertain. "Cassius, I know you'll never forgive me, and you shouldn't. I spent your whole childhood telling you that you'd amount to nothing, when the truth was I was terrified you'd amount to everything. You had a strength I never had. You stood up to me when your own mother wouldn't. That should have made me proud, but it made me feel small instead. I took that out on you and your brother, and there's no excuse for that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you that you became exactly what I was afraid you'd become. Everything I never was. Your father." The wooden box contained a single item, a newspaper clipping from when I graduated high school as valedictorian. He'd kept it all these years, even after kicking me out, even after spending years claiming I'd never succeed. I sat there holding evidence that some part of him had always known I'd prove him wrong. I called Atticus that night and told him about Mom's visit, about Dad's death, about the letter. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Empty. Not sad, not angry, just empty." "Maybe that's healing. Maybe that's what it looks like when you finally let go completely. Maybe. Are you going to keep the letter?" I looked at it again, this pathetic attempt at a deathbed apology that didn't apologize for anything. "No, I think I'm done carrying his words around." I threw the letter away. But I kept the newspaper clipping, not because I forgave him, but because it reminded me that even people who hurt us can sometimes recognize our worth, even if they can't admit it while they're alive. The community center celebrated its 5th anniversary last year. Atticus spoke at the ceremony, now Dr. Atticus with his doctorate in bioengineering. He'd developed 3 patents for adaptive prosthetics and started his own company. In his speech, he talked about transformation, how the worst things that happen to us can become the source of our greatest strength if we choose to let them. "This building stands where my brother and I learned what it meant to survive," he said to the crowd. "But survival isn't enough. We had to learn what it meant to thrive. This center is proof that it's possible to take the worst moments of your life and use them to create the best moments in someone else's." After the ceremony, we walked through the building together, looking at the photos on the walls of all the families who'd been helped over the years. Children who'd escaped abusive homes, parents who'd learned better ways to handle stress, teenagers who'd found mentors when their own families failed them. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd had a place like this when we were kids?" Atticus asked. "Sometimes. But then I realized we might not have become the people we are now. We might not have learned to save ourselves. And we might not have learned how to save others." We stopped in front of a new addition to the memorial wall, a photo of Dad. Not because we'd forgiven him, but because his failure had taught us what not to become. Below his photo was a quote Atticus had chosen. "Some people's greatest contribution to the world is serving as a warning to others." It was harsh, but true. Dad's legacy wasn't the pain he'd caused us. It was the healing we'd chosen to create in spite of that pain. That night, Atticus and I stood outside the center as the sun set. In a few weeks, he'd be getting married. In a few months, I'd be breaking ground on a second community center in another part of the city. We had plans, dreams, futures that extended far beyond the damage our parents had done. I have a confession, Atticus said. What? I used to be jealous of you, for leaving, for escaping, for building this incredible life while I was stuck in that house. And now? Now I understand that you didn't escape. You just got a head start on healing. We both made it out. We both built something good. We both learned that being born into darkness doesn't mean you have to live in it forever. Exactly. As we walked to our cars, I realized something that had taken me 13 years to understand. Revenge isn't about making your enemies suffer. Revenge is about proving they were wrong about you. It's about building a life so magnificent that their small-minded cruelty becomes irrelevant. I'd bought my parents' house to hurt them, but that wasn't what had given me peace. Peace had come from using that space to help other people heal. Peace had come from finding my brother and learning to be a family with someone who understood love as protection instead of control. The last time I saw Mom was at the grocery store 2 years ago. She was using a cart for support, moving slowly through the aisles. She looked like a woman carrying the weight of a lifetime of bad choices. When she saw me, she stopped. Cassius. Mom, how are you? I'm well. You? She gestured vaguely at herself. Getting by. We stood there for a moment. Two people who'd shared a house but never really been a family. I think about you sometimes, she said. About what I should have done differently. Do you really? I should have protected you. Both of you. I should have been stronger. Yeah, you should have. She nodded, accepting that truth without argument. For what it's worth, she said. I'm proud of what you became, both of you. Thanks. But you don't get to take credit for that. I know. That was the last conversation we ever had. She died 6 months later, peacefully, according to Persephone. I didn't go to the funeral. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Some stories end with acceptance. Accepting that some people can't change, accepting that some wounds don't heal, accepting that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who hurt you is simply to live well without them. Today, Atticus and I co-own 12 community centers across 3 states. We've helped thousands of families find resources, safety, and hope. We've turned our childhood trauma into a nationwide movement for child protection and family support. But more than that, we've learned how to be brothers again, how to trust, how to love, how to build the family we never had as children. Sometimes I drive past the lot where our house used to stand. The community center is always busy. Kids playing in the yard, families coming and going, people finding help when they need it most. I never park. I never go in anymore. That space belongs to the community now, not to my memories. But sometimes I slow down just enough to see the sign by the entrance. The Atticus Center for Family Healing. Named for the boy who survived everything and grew up to save others. That's the real victory. Not that I bought my parents' house and tore it down. Not that I proved them wrong about who I'd become. The real victory is that their cruelty created compassion. Their failure taught us how to succeed. Their inability to love us taught us how to love each other. In the end, the best revenge is not just living well. It's using your pain to prevent others from experiencing the same suffering. It's turning your worst moments into someone else's salvation. My parents said I was the black sheep who would never amount to anything. They were wrong about everything except the black sheep part. I am different from them. Thank God for that.